If I started optimizing my diet in 2025, I would do this. That's something I'm going to talk about today, so stick around. Hi, my name is Hachiaki Takamiya. I am the author of Live Wiser, Not Smarter. Now, in a few more days, it is going to be 2025. Are you ready for the new year? Have you made any plans for your health next year? Have you been watching my videos, by the way? So I've been sharing some videos about 2025, your health goals. The first video was about health in general, and the last video was about fasting, which was this one. Did you watch it? The actual title was, If I started intermittent fasting in 2025, I'd do this. Now, today, I'll be sharing with you about diet. I'll be comparing different kind of diets. For example, there are plant-based diet, ketogenic diet, carnivore diet, Mediterranean diet, washoku or Japanese diet, and the macrobiotic diet. Also, it may not be a diet, but personalized nutrition, like a sort of a consulting AI to come up with your ideal or the optimal diet will become more popular in 2025. So I'll be talking about that too. So which diet will be the best in 2025? So I'll be talking about what 2025 will be like and things you need to pay attention to when choosing a diet, and pros and cons of those diet I just mentioned. And finally, the ideal diet that I recommend in 2025. So please watch the video until the end. Now, those of you who just discovered this video today, this is the Ikigai Diet channel, which is a health and longevity channel. We usually cover things like diet, exercise, mindset, and sometimes we cover Japanese blue zones because there are several blue zones in Japan other than Okinawa. We cover from traditional Japanese health method to modern Japanese health trend, such as Chokatsu. Basically, this is a channel about how to increase health span, especially for people over 50 or over 60. So if you're interested, please subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Now, so 2025 will be a big leap from 2024. So what kind of year will it be? So I've been kind of talking about this change in the last few videos too. So for details, please watch my other videos too. So, but let's recap some of the things that I said. One is MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, by RFK Jr. This will be implemented in January. And one thing he's going to do is to get rid of ultra-processed food. That will bring more public awareness about food in general, what kind of chemicals are used in food and what kind of additives and so on. And so that is something you're already familiar with. I mean, most of you who are watching this channel are probably health conscious and you probably know all those things. But what's going to change is the general public. The people in the general public will become more aware of those issues and more people will become health conscious. So people will be looking for health information more and more. That means more people will put information on the internet about health. Some of them could be misinformation, and some of them are not misinformation necessarily, but kind of one-sided information. So more and more, it is going to be a little chaotic, and you wouldn't know which one to choose, which advice to select. So you need to understand the basics of diet and health and what kind of thing you need to look into when choosing a diet. That will become more critical in 2025. And it is going to be a global phenomenon, not only American phenomena, because American policy usually influences other countries too. And especially in the field of internet, once all those health information is up on the internet, everybody in the globe will be watching it. So it is going to be the international issue. And 2025 will be the year of the snake, according to the Chinese zodiac. And this time it is going to be a little different because the Chinese New Year will begin in January, not in February, which is usually the case. For example, last year, this year, actually, it's 2024, the year of the dragon started on February 10th, but the year of a snake will start almost 10 days earlier, which means almost the entire 2025 will be the year of the snake. So the 2025 will be influenced by the characteristic of the year of the snake. What does it mean? What does the year of snake represent? Now, there are three keywords to it. One is wisdom, two, transformation, especially spiritual transformation. And the last one is intuition. So wisdom, therefore, you want to live wiser. And spirituality. Now, spirituality has been big in the last few years, or I would say in the last few decades. There has always been a group of people who are interested in spirituality, and many people have practiced meditation, yoga, and different kind of things throughout the world. But what's going to happen in 2025 is there will be more disclosures, some kind of scientific evidence about spirituality. So there will be a kind of balance between spirituality and science for the first time in history. Some of the spiritual things have been ignored by the scientific community, but if there are some scientific backed up data, there will be more research conducted about spirituality. So in many ways, spiritual matters will become more official. It will become more mainstream. So what does it mean to the field of health and longevity? Usually, you pay attention to the physical health, such as increasing your health span. That has been your main focus. But in 2025, you also want to pay attention to improving your spiritual self, how to optimize your spirituality so that you will be in a better position or better condition to shift into the next realm if you're evolving to the next realm after your death. So that could be another question you will be asking in 2025. And natural disasters. Now, I have watched some videos about the prediction of the 2025, based on some psychics and general kind of future, prediction video type of thing. And then one thing is common is that there will be a lot of natural disasters, some earthquakes, hurricanes, forest fire, and so on. And this is due to the climate change. The effect of the climate change will be even stronger next year. So that means there could be some food shortages. So even though you want to optimize your diet and try to source nutrient, some of the food may not be available. That's a possibility. So you need to put that into consideration. And the last area is the AI revolution, which has been happening in the last few years, but it will escalate even more in 2025. So in the field of health and longevity, everything will be customized or personalized, such as personalized nutrition. So instead of practicing a particular diet, people will use an AI to come up with, your personal best diet. That's a possibility. And so now I'll talk about that one too. Okay, so when you think of a diet in 2025, you want to take all those things into consideration. Okay, so things you need to pay attention to when choosing a diet in general. Now, first, you want to pay attention to disease prevention, because in order to increase your health span, you need to protect yourself from developing diseases, which means you need to take care of your internal organs such as heart, kidney, liver, gut, and also brain, because dementia is a disease and you want to avoid that too. So there are certain food which are good for the brain too. And then injury prevention. As you get older, injury is a high risk factor. So you want to build your muscles, but also you want to strengthen your bones. Now, protein is often stressed because protein can, help maintain your muscle strength, but also for bones, you need calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin K2, and so on. So you need to pay attention to different kind of nutrients and spirituality. So what kind of food are good for your spirituality? That's another thing you want to pay attention to. And what about the planetary health? Because unless the planet exists, you cannot survive. So planetary health and personal health are tied. In order for you to increase your health span, you need to increase the health span of the planet. What kind of food, what kind of diet can support the planetary health? Right. And then the last, but probably the most important thing is doability. Because no matter how great your diet is, no matter how optimal your diet is from, scientifically speaking or spiritually speaking, if you cannot practice it, then there is no point. So I think that doability is the most important element of all those elements. Okay, so let's look at each diet based on all those elements. First one is a plant-based diet. Now, when you say plant-based diet, there are different kinds of plant-based diet. There's a vegan diet where you avoid all animal-based products. And there's a vegetarian diet where you avoid mostly meat and fish, but you might include dairy product, eggs. Or flexitarian, which is a flex vegetarian diet. You try to stay on a plant-based or plant-centered diet as much as possible, but occasionally you include animal-based food, including meat. Now, so the benefit of plant-based diet, especially in 2025, is it is good for both planetary health and spiritual health. So this is very spiritual because many spiritual traditions, people have practiced a plant-based diet. In Buddhism, for example, Buddhism, or I think Hinduism too, there is a concept called ahimsa. The core principle of ahimsa extends compassion to all creatures. Vegetarianism is a way to minimize harm caused to animals. Therefore, if you can, it is better to stay away from animals to improve your spirituality or kind of ethical sort of aspect. But there's another thing in spirituality that is a vibrational point of view. It is not so much about the ethical aspect of how you want to treat animals, but more your own self, your vibration, whether your vibration will be easier to kind of, go up to a higher dimension or not. And generally speaking, I mean, you may disagree, but I think most spiritual practitioner would say that animal is very dense. So your vibration will become lower if you consume a lot of animals. And the plant is probably lighter, plant is lighter, therefore your vibration will be higher. So from the point of view of spiritual vibration, generally speaking, it is better to practice a plant-based diet. Now, I personally don't agree, or I don't practice this teaching personally, but I have to admit that maybe it is true. I would not want to argue with this point. It is true. So if you are very serious about spirituality, then maybe better to stay away from all animals possible. In my case, I don't, because it's not doable for me. But as far as concept is concerned, I would not deny this concept. And then, so what about the drawbacks then? Well, one drawback is it can create a nutritional deficiency, especially if you practice strict, like a vegan diet and so on. You may become deficient in vitamin B12 or omega-3 fatty acid, a certain nutrient that are difficult to gain on a vegan diet. The other thing is there's a danger that you may be swayed into consuming cultivated meat. Now, I don't know much about cultivated meat. I've never eaten it, and I don't have enough knowledge to determine whether it is good or safe. But I am a personally little skeptical about it. It's something completely new. We don't understand. But the whole idea of kind of alternating cells to make something new, like using biotechnology, I am a little wary about it. And from the spiritual point of view too, for the vibrational point of view, I don't know if it's going to help your, kind of a vibration or not. So it is better to choose whole foods such as beans or nut. It's more natural. We are familiar with those foods and we know that they are okay. But cultivated meat, something we don't know. But there is a risk that you will be swayed into this dietary culture more, partly because you're practicing a plant-based diet, because the industry is targeting those people. If you are kind of animal eating people, then you would not become interested in this kind of meat anyway. So you're much safer in that sense. So one thing you need to be careful about this. I mean, you need to at least study what it is, and then if you made sure that they're all safe, then yeah, sure. I mean, go ahead. That's really your choice. And also it might create problem in social life. If you have a strict diet in any form, basically, it becomes difficult to socialize with other people who don't practice the same diet. And socializing is very important in health and longevity because, they, including your family member, this family bond and bond with friends is very important. It's a very important ikigai source. So it can create ikigai for you. Therefore, it is very important. What about ketogenic diet? This is very popular or has been very popular. I hear about this diet all the time. Many people seem to practice this diet. So this is a low carb, high fat diet that forces the body into ketosis, a metabolic state where it burns fat for fuel instead of carbohydrates. I have never practiced this diet, so I don't know it so much. But many people have experienced a lot of benefit, especially weight loss. So if you have a problem with weight, like overweight issues, then practicing this kind of diet for a short term, such as a few months, may be beneficial. But there are some drawbacks. Well, again, depending on how you practice it, because there are many different ways of practicing ketogenic diet. So some, form is much safer than others. So I cannot really speak everything about ketogenic diet. But generally speaking, if you are avoiding carbohydrate, there's one possibility That is, you may have a lack of fiber, and fiber is important. Fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria such as butyrate bacteria, which is the key gut bacteria for longevity. And also, in long term, it may not be sustainable. It may not be doable because you are kind of limiting certain ingredients. And more you limit the ingredient, the more difficult it is to continue doing for a long time. And in this video, I am talking about a long-term sustainable diet because you want to be able to continue it for a long time, not only 2025, but you want to continue this diet for many years to come as well. So one alternative is you can include whole grain in your diet. So you can avoid refined carbs for sure, but you can include whole grain. And then if you practice intermittent fasting, you can put yourself in a state of ketosis. So this might be an alternative. If you don't want to practice ketogenic diet, but still want to, put yourself into ketosis, then you can practice intermittent fasting. What about carnivore diet? Now, so this is consuming only animal products and eliminating all plant-based foods. This includes meat, fish, eggs, and some dairy products. Fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds are all excluded. Now, this is almost the opposite of vegan diet, isn't it? So I have never practiced it, and I don't personally know anyone who practice this diet. So I don't know much about this diet either. So this is even more extreme than ketogenic diet. Well, I mean, personally, when I look at this or when I hear this, yeah, this is very extreme, and I don't know how people want to practice this kind of diet. But apparently, quite a few people practice this diet, and then they have experienced some benefits. So let's look at some of the benefit that they have experienced. The first one is weight loss. The high protein and fat content can increase satiety, feeling full, potentially leading to reduced calorie intake and weight loss. The diet also puts the body into a state of ketosis. Improved blood sugar control, short term, eliminating carbohydrate can lead to lower and more stable blood sugar levels, which might benefit some people with type 2 diabetes, at least in the short term. However, the long-term effects on blood sugar control are unknown and potentially negative due to the lack of fiber. Elimination of potential allergens, intolerances, by removing common food allergens and irritants like gluten, dairy, or food maps in some people, some individuals might experience relief from digestive issues or other symptoms. It is worth noting that some people are allergic to types of meat. Okay, so what about the drawbacks then? Well, again, the same as ketogenic diet, lack of fiber, and even more in this case, because you're hardly consuming any fiber, including ingredient. So that might create a big problem in your gut health. And generally speaking, I don't think it is a sustainable way. I mean, again, for a short time, maybe it can work, but to continue this kind of diet for a long time, I don't know if it's sustainable. Well, let's say if it is good, if all those, meat are actually good for you, but if you are consuming meat every day, every single day, how much would it cost? I mean, you would have to be quite wealthy to be able to afford all those meat. Because I suppose you are consuming organic meat, like grass-fed beef and free-range chicken and that kind of thing. And I mean, if you are consuming factory farmed meat, then you can probably find quite reasonable meat. But like, for example, I do consume some meat and I try to consume organic meat, but because it's only on the weekend, I can afford it. But if it's something I have to do every day, it's too expensive for me to afford this diet. So is it sustainable for every class of people, or do you have to be wealthy to be able to do that? Is one question. And also, when you think about sustainability, you need to think about storeability, whether you can store food or not. For meat, you need a fridge or freezer to store. I remember Liver King, for example, he has like several big freezers. And then he have a stock of all those, liver and different kind of meat and stuff. And that's okay, but you need that kind of a device or, equipment to keep this lifestyle. Now, one great thing about grain is it can be stored for a long time in a room temperature. You don't need a fridge or freezer to keep grains. That is why both wheat and rice have been staple in many countries for centuries. Yeah, because they can last for 1, 2, sometimes 3 years. How many other products that can last such a long time? I mean, even potatoes can last for about 6 months, and maybe onions 6 months too. And most vegetables can last only for a few days. So that is a great thing about grains. And that made me think. So, how do you sustain your lifestyle is a big question. Um, Now, many people talk about natural lifestyle, and one of the things about carnivore diet is ancestral living, because you say, hunter gatherers, they are all hunting animals, and that was more natural to the human back then. And so you want to return to that lifestyle. Maybe it's better than urban artificial lifestyle, which is true. But how realistic do you think it is in today's world to shift to hunter-gatherer lifestyle? I mean, if we want to shift to more natural lifestyle from urban lifestyle, probably agricultural lifestyle is more common, because there are lots of countryside around and it is possible for you to practice that. But to go back to hunter-gatherer, there is not enough space to be able to practice that kind of lifestyle anymore. And so, and I don't know whether agricultural lifestyle is better than hunter-gatherer lifestyle. I'm not arguing the difference between the two, but we have been reading this kind of lifestyle for centuries in many cultures. So this is the closest that we get to become natural. But by the way, it is possible to practice a kind of half hunter-gatherer lifestyle in my town, because some people hunt. They hunt, deers and wild pigs and so on. And have you ever slaughtered wild animals, by the way? I have. I have slaughtered some wild pigs and deer, but it's terrible. I mean, your hands get very greasy. First, you need to take the skin off, and then you touch the meat and cut the meat, but it's oily all over the body and it gets so greasy. It's really difficult. I mean, you don't want to do that weekly basis, because to eat meat every day means you need to slaughter an animal once a week to do that. And it's really hard. I mean, compared to that, growing vegetables, growing grain, much easier. So, I mean, that's another thing you need to think about. Okay, so Mediterranean diet. This is inspired by the traditional eating patterns of the people in the Mediterranean region, emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, olive oil, and fish. Moderate consumption of poultry, eggs, and dairy, limited red meat. Now, I think this is pretty good, and I haven't had any drawbacks of this type of diet. Most experts seem to agree that this is one of the best diet out there. When it comes to plant-based diet, ketogenic diet, or carnivore diet, there is a kind of a debate going on. there are people who support those diets, but there are also people who are against those diets. There's a kind of big debate going on. The ideas the ideas are divided. But Mediterranean diet, I don't think it is divided. Most people seem to agree that this is one of the most optimal diet. In fact, it is proven the fact that two of the blue zones area practice something similar to the Mediterranean diet. That is the Sardinia, Italy, and Icaria, Greece. So yeah, I'm sure you can live long by practicing the Mediterranean diet. And I think it is one of the best diets that you can practice in 2025. Having said that, when I look at the Mediterranean diet, it reminds me of washoku, the Japanese diet. In fact, those two are very similar. One difference is the whole grains. Washoku doesn't have whole grains. We mostly consume white rice, and when we consume noodles, they are usually refined carbs, not the whole grains. Plus, we have more fermented foods such as natto, pickles. Well, the Mediterranean diet has like cheese too. So they are different but very similar. Now, what about the macrobiotic diet, which is another Japanese origin diet? They consume whole grain. So in some ways, it is better than regular Japanese diet. It's closer to the Mediterranean diet in that sense. So let's look at the macrobiotic diet in case if you don't know much about this diet. So this is based on Japanese food, but there are certain principles. One is whole unprocessed foods. The foundation of the diet is whole grains, especially brown rice, which typically make up 40 to 60% of the daily intake. And locally grown seasonal vegetables, these are the next most important component, comprising about 20 to 30% of the diet. Beans and legumes, important sources of protein, about 10 to 15% of the diet. Sea vegetables, seaweeds like nori, wakame, and kombu are used for minerals and flavor. Limited fruits, nuts, and seeds, consumed in moderation. Fish. Some version of the diet allows for white-fleshed fish a few times a week. Foods to avoid. Meat and poultry, dairy products, eggs, tropical fruits, nightshade vegetables, potatoes, tomatoes, eggplants, peppers in some versions, strong spices, alcohol, and caffeine. So it's a little like a vegan diet, except they eat fish, but they avoid meat, poultry, dairy product, and eggs, and some, vegetables and things. So there are a lot of food that they cannot eat, and that is one of the drawbacks, the strictness. It's little too strict for most people to practice. And actually it's more than that because you need to think about yin and yang balance. They divide every food yin and yang, and you need to find a neutral food, which is a little complicated process. And also it can cause nutritional deficiency because of that. In fact, the macrobiotic diet used to be very popular in the West, but now it's not as widely practiced as before. I mean, compared to the ketogenic diet and other diet, it's not so popular these days. And that is why some of you may have never heard of it. But it used to be very big in the West and in Japan. Well, in Japan, it still is very popular. Now, but I think it's kind of unfortunate because there are a lot of good things in this diet. So I want to kind of, bring this diet back to the West again. That is why I decided to come up with a new diet by combining the essence of the Japanese diet and the macrobiotic diet. Because basically, the macrobiotic diet is based on natural Japanese dietary culture. So But macrobiotic diet has certain dogmas. By getting rid of some of those dogmas, and you are going back to the origin of the natural Japanese dietary culture, which is basically close to washoku, and then like changing this to whole grain and choosing organic ingredients, so on, maybe you can upgrade this diet. So that is how I created the Ikigai diet. So in some ways, the Ikigai diet is the upgraded version of the macrobiotic diet. I mean, sorry for the people who practice the macrobiotic. I mean, you might think, what are you thinking? Who do you think you are? Yeah, based on my own ideas, I did upgrade, but maybe for you, the macrobiotic diet is better. So, I mean, I wouldn't deny that. But anyway, so the Ikigai diet is something I created based on all those factors. Now, one of the guidelines of the Ikigai diet is Mago wa yasashi koku, which means beans, nuts and seeds, seaweeds, vegetables, fish, mushrooms, tubers, whole grains, and fruit. Now, Mago wa yasashi, which is up to tubers. This is the Japanese concept. It's a kind of a current Japanese natural food concept. Mago wa yasashi is very popular, but I added ko and ku. So this is unique to the Ikigai diet. And you know what? Doesn't that sound something familiar? Yes, the Mediterranean diet. So I just talked about it, didn't I? And so it emphasizes fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts, olive oil, and fish. So it includes some of the categories in Magoa Yasashi Koku. So in many ways, the Ikigai diet and the Mediterranean diets are similar. In fact, it is more like the combining the Washoku diet and the Mediterranean diet. Okay, so what about personalized nutrition then? Probably this is the most optimal if you can personalize your unique diet. But one thing you need to be careful is that you don't want to solely relying on nutrition science, because when you think of when you think about optimization, often it's based on nutritional science. And if it is correct, it's okay. But sometimes science is not always correct, or the views are different depending on the experts. So based on what data the AI is talking about, it can change. So can you trust the data? That is one thing. And sometimes if you try to optimize your nutrition, to think of the optimal nutrition all the time, it's possible that you might ignore Shindo Fuji, which is a very important concept in 2025. Now, what is Shindo Fuji? So this is the Japanese concept, and this is kind of an Asian concept. So we use this kind of Chinese character to write Shindo Fuji. Shin means body, Do means soil, Fu means not, and Ji means two. So body and soil are not two, meaning body and soil are as one. Basically, eat locally and seasonally. This is most natural to our body to eat locally and seasonally. Now, this eating locally and seasonally can be more reliable in the era of natural disasters. As I said, there could be some food shortages, and we are not always able to access the nutrient that we need, because to do that, you have to source food overseas, or you have to source out of season ingredients. But that may not be available in the time like this. Plus, by practicing locally and seasonally eating, it may be more sustainable, because global food trade may be causing the climate change in the first place. So leading this kind of lifestyle is more reliable in the era of natural disasters, and it is more sustainable. Now, the other thing you need to pay attention to is your gut health, not only about regular nutrient. So when you talk about nutritional science, you usually talk about things like protein, calcium, vitamin, mineral, and so on. But what about the gut bacteria? Gut health is also important. So how can you optimize your gut microbiome? There are three things to pay attention to: prebiotics, probiotics, and postbiotics. Prebiotics are basically fiber. In other words, Magoa yasashi koku, except fish. Fish doesn't have fiber, but fish is still good for your gut health because of omega-3 fatty acid, which is critical for your gut health. And probiotics are fermented food. So the combination of Magoya Sashikoku and fermented food is good for your gut health. And postbiotics, they are short chain fatty acid which are produced by probiotics in your gut. And those short chain fatty acids are called acetic acid, acetate, propionic acid, propionate, butyric acid, butyrate. Now, to increase those short chain fatty acids in your gut, you need to have this bacterial relay. So, propionate, acetate, butyrate, those are the short chain fatty acids. So to produce them, you need fiber, you need bacteria like natto bacteria, lactic acid bacteria, bifidobacteria to produce that. So you need to understand this. Today, I want to go into detail because it takes a long time. But if you're interested, please watch my other video called The Missing Link in Your Gut Health, Why Fiber Alone Isn't Enough, the natto connection. Okay, so in many ways, Magoa Yasashi Koku and fermented food are the key because they can support increasing short chain fatty acid in your gut. And the Ikigai diet contains both Magoa Yasashi Koku and fermented food. Therefore, I think it is going to be the ideal diet for you in 2025. It is a holistic approach. And most of all, it is personalizable. Now, so no diet is perfect. No diet is ideal. There is no such a thing as an ideal diet because everybody is unique. Everybody is different. And you live in a different environment. You live in different region. There are certain ingredients that are available only in your region, but not in other regions and so on. And your character, your body condition is different and your mental preferences are different too. So your ideal diet is different from mine. So it is important for the diet to be personalizable. And the Ikigai diet is because it's not a fixed diet. There's not a rule. They have to eat this. So it only gives some guidelines, kind of a basic principles, but once you understand the principle, you can arrange suitable to your region, suitable to your situation. For details, please read Live Wiser, Not Smarter, Chapter 3, The Ideal Diet to Increase Health Span. Now, the book covers not only about the diet, but also fasting, exercise, sleep, heat and cold exposure, and brain optimization. It is a comprehensive book to increase your health span, and it is very concise, only 106 pages, so it takes only a half day to read. So I recommend this book. Please read this book during the holidays. And in the book, I'll be sharing my diet. I mean, exactly what I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay, thank you for watching. Now, so as I said before, the ideal diet is different for each person. So based on what you watched today, you need to come up with your ideal diet. I mean, maybe some of you, ketogenic diet is ideal for you, or the macrobiotic diet, or carnivore, or vegan diet. Whatever feels right to you, choose that one. Okay, so thank you for watching. Again, my name is Hachiaki Takamiya, the author of Live Wiser, Not Smarter. If you like this video, please give me your thumb up and subscribe to my channel. And please leave your comment. What kind of diet will you practice in 2025? By the way, this is going to be the last video this year. We are going to enter the winter holiday in Japan from tomorrow. So I won't be uploading a video until January. All right, so I hope you have a happy new year and live with your ikigai.